This person whose politics are absolutely disgusting. I mean, ranging from shut down capitalism, destroy it utterly, to root for Hamas. They nominated her for a Nobel Prize and told us she was a moral clarion voice because she yelled at the adults. These are the kinds of young people the Democrats want. Young people who yell at the adults without ever attempting to actually do anything productive. The productive kids who are out in the back room, actually coding and figuring out how things work and then using those powers in order to go through government waste and fraud if they call themselves big balls online. Whoa, stop it all, shut it down. But if you are a 16-year-old Swedish child who drops out of high school to travel around yelling at adults about why capitalism is bad, then we give you the Nobel Prize, according to the left. Here's a flashback to Greta, how dare you, Thunberg.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
I just want to point out, you worshipped this person. This bluster bag filled with nonsense and emotive stupidity. You worshipped this. You said this person is worthy of listening to with no skill set other than lecturing adults. So, yeah, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt when you guys suggest, and when I say a grain, I mean like an ocean filled, like a Dead Sea filled with salt. I'm going to take with your recommendation that because a dude called himself big balls in a meme online, that somehow makes him unable to go through government waste and fraud. Now, in the end, the truth is what Democrats really want is not just young people who are theater kids. They want that lifestyle extended over the entire course of adult life. They want permanent Greta Thunberg. They want permanent David Hoggs. That's what they want. They want people who never build anything, who never do anything useful. What they want is people who are perennially 16 and complaining about the world, and by the way, ruining their own lives in the process. A perfect example of this sort of person is a representative from Michigan named Laurie Pohutsky. Laurie Pohutsky is not a young person. Laurie Pohutsky is 36, which in the old days would have put you squarely in sort of the lower middle-aged category. Laurie Pohutsky announced yesterday that she had undergone surgery to ensure that she would never have to navigate a pregnancy in Donald Trump's America, and thus had sterilized herself. Perennial childhood, perennial lack of responsibility, and then blaming the system for it. Now, you might say to yourself, wait, hold up. There are many things that human beings can do, it turns out, to avoid getting pregnant. I mean, that is just a fact. You might say to yourself that Michigan abortion law is actually quite permissive, that actually the Michigan Constitution guarantees a right to an abortion. Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is yelling at the system and then harming yourself in the process is heroism on the left. It is Greta Thunberg forever. It is 80-year-old Greta Thunbergs filling the Democratic Party. So yeah, I'm not going to take you seriously that you're very, very upset over big balls going through the budget at the transportation department for waste and fraud. The answer is no. We'll get to more on this in just 1 second. First, as social unrest escalates and crime rates climb, securing the safety of our families is now more crucial than ever. Now, I'm about as pro-Second Amendment as it gets, but the thought of using lethal force is not ideal for everybody, which is why you need to check out Byrna. Now, when it comes to protecting my family, I am ready to spare no expense. But I would also love to be able to defend my family without doing the worst thing a human being might have to do. Introducing the Byrna Ungun, the non-lethal self-defense platform. Lightweight, simple to use. It uses an easy-to-load 5-round magazine. Is powered by an 8-gram CO2 cartridge. Byrna launchers fire a 68 caliber chemical-filled projectile using patented pull-pierce technology, where the CO2 canister is only punctured on the first trigger pull, meaning your launcher is always at the ready. It's capable of incapacitating an attacker for over 30 minutes. It's accurate and effective at over 60 feet. It requires no permits, no background checks. It's interstate travel friendly. With Byrna, you will be prepared to defend. The Byrna is a safer, more sensible alternative that could potentially save lives on both sides, protecting both user and aggressor. Thanks to Byrna for sponsoring this video. And if you haven't yet, go check out last week's episode of Ben After Dark on Daily Wire Plus, brought to you by Byrna. Listen, I hope Democrats fight this one all the way. I really hope they fight this one all the way, because their fight against DOGE is one of the dumbest political fights I've ever seen anyone pick. They will be able to ding Elon Musk as a human, just in terms of his individual polling numbers. But what they are fighting right now is against government bureaucracies being cut. That is what they are fighting against. And DOGE is doing a really good job, so is the Trump administration generally, of calling out the waste and fraud that have been happening inside the system. Now, look, the real reality when it comes to America's national debt and bending the cost curve is that trimming around the edges, getting rid of even many of the billions of dollars that are put out by USAID, that is a worthy cause that is not going to truly bend the cost curve for the United States. The entire budget of the USAID is $40 billion. The United States is running trillion-dollar deficits every single year. We currently have a $36 trillion national debt. Unless you change the actual entitlement systems, which nobody is willing to do, you're not going to cure the problem. With that said, is it very good that it's happening? Sure. And is it hilarious that Democrats are trying to find a way to defend the massive bureaucracy they have created, this giant cash cow that they created and controlled for 100 years? They're trying to defend it against the predations of big balls. Isn't that kind of hilarious? Absolutely it is. And their arguments, of course, make zero sense at all. Senator Maria Cantwell of Washington, she's very upset because there is a rumor that DOGE had basically plugged into the FAA in order to help correct the aviation systems. And again, cut out the waste, fraud, and abuse. Here's Maria Cantwell getting very upset about it.
I'm sending a letter to Secretary Duffy. It's a clear conflict of interest, and Secretary Duffy should make sure that Mr. Musk is not part of the FAA air transportation system. What we don't welcome is a man who's regulated by this sector and who has had fines for violation of safety, which is launch issues related to protecting the flying public at a time when you need the FAA to call the shots and say, don't launch now because there could be a conflict in the airspace. The last thing I want is that guy trying to control the airspace.
Wow. You certainly cannot have a man controlling the airspace and working on aviation who, owns the most successful space company of our time and creates machines capable of firing 20-story rockets into the air and bringing them back down and catching them. Can't have that guy involved with aviation. The person we need at the head of the transportation department is a man who couldn't fill potholes in South Bend, Indiana, but is gay and loves choo-choo trains and takes 2-month paternity leaves without telling anybody. That's who I trust with our federal aviation security. And this is a losing battle for Democrats. And if they continue to fight it, it is not going to end well for them. I think most hilariously is the argument that's now being put forward by the media that what Musk is doing is somehow wild, crazy, out of the unprecedented. So CNN's Pamela Brown, she was very upset yesterday. She said, would you be okay with George Soros doing what Elon Musk is doing?
Would you be okay if Democrats were doing this? If, for example, George Soros came in under a Democratic administration and had his staffers gain access to sensitive programs about Americans and their personal information and dismantling agencies, would you be okay with that?
It's amazing that Democrats are acting as if this is something that's novel. I've been talking to my constituents for months and months and months about Elon Musk coming in, having a serious business person coming in and using his team to go through the federal budget with a fine-tooth comb.
Would you be okay if Democrats did this? If a George Soros came in with his staffers and did the same thing that Elon Musk is doing? Would you accept that?
Well, what's unprecedented is spending our taxpayer dollars on left-wing partisan political projects all over the globe.
Okay, first of all, I love the ire from Pamela Brown. What would happen if George Soros's people were just put in charge? They were in charge. Alex Soros posts pictures of himself with every single Democratic leader at his palatial apartment above Central Park. Every single one of them. Kamala Harris, Tim Walz. Soros has been in control of the bureaucracy in ways both large and small for years. And if not Soros, people like Soros. Who do you think is staffing these bureaucratic institutions? Who do you think is receiving checks in the non-governmental sphere from institutions like USAID, organizations run by people like George Soros? So no, this isn't unprecedented. It's just the American people are ready for the cuts. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.